What's up, guys? My name is Chris Reed. Today we're going to be mixing a trap beat inside of Propellerhead Reason version 10. I'm speaking very clearly just so that you guys can hear me and understand what I'm about to do. Now, I feel like there are not very many good videos on how to mix and how to make beats in Reason, and I want to change that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I mix my beats. Now, first of all, right now we're going to start with the beat just completely at silence because I want you to really get the whole process. So, we can go ahead. I'll just put everything kind of like at a regular volume just so that you can hear what it sounds like with it not mixed. And of course, obviously, it's not going to sound that great because it's going to be unmixed. But I'm going to let you hear how it sounds, so then that way we can start doing the tips and the steps for how I mix my beats. Here we go. You guys get the idea. We're going to be mixing in the hook part of the song. We're going to be mixing this part. It's going to sound like this. Okay. So I can already tell, there's stuff completely not mixed correctly. And we know that because we saw me just pull the levers into a random positioning. But here we go. So very first thing that I'm going to do when I start mixing is I'm going to pull all of these knobs down to the bass level. Now, even if you mix at a high level, you can still mix the beat at a high level and then turn it down where you need to, do your phase where you need to. But if you want to start off low, it's better to give yourself a nice pad. Start off low and build the beat up to a certain level, and in that way you give yourself what's called headroom for when you want to master the track and get it and normalize it, basically, so that it sounds its fullest and its max volume. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to loop a section of the beat that has all of the sounds in it. I'm going to loop a section of the beat that has all the sounds in it. That way, when I go to start changing things and I go to start changing the levels of things, that way I'm going to get a nice tight sound. I'm going to be able to hear all of the sounds that's in that section. Now, the first thing that we're going to start mixing, depending on what music you're making, usually if you're using trap or some kind of a hip hop beat, the first thing you're going to start mixing is the kick. So the first thing we're going to do, and we're keeping everything low. We're not going to get above this 12 right here. We're going to try to keep it low in this sweet green section right here. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just add some volume to the kick. Alright, I like that. So we gave our kick some volume so we can hear our kick. But of course, our kick is going to have issues going on with it. First of all, it's going to have some EQ issues So we're going to pull up our equalizer. And as you can already notice, I've already done a little bit of EQing to some things. I cut out the highs because it's not a top kick, it's just a low kick. I cut out some of these mids, and I boosted up the main frequency where the main frequencies where the kick really lives. Now for most kicks, you're going to be around this 90 hertz range, and that's where you want to be. The other thing that I did was I added a high pass filter, and then we're going to filter out all of the frequency below 40 hertz, below 40 hertz. And that's just a lot of sub that you can't hear, that we can't pick up on, and that really is going to make your mix muddy. So we want to clear up some of that. So we just turn on our, right here, we turn on our high pass filter, and pretty much that's it. The kick lives at 90 hertz, so you just give it a slight boost. Remember, when it comes to mixing, you want to cut first. See how I cut these sounds out? Cut first and boost second. You don't want to go into just straight boosting things. You want to see what you can cut out first. Now, so now that we have our kick living right here, right just below 12, right just below right here at -12. Now that we got our kick living right there, everything else is going to be mixed around the kick. We're not gonna keep pushing the kick up and making the kick louder and louder. We're just gonna mix everything around the kick. Cool. Now, if you notice, this snare 2 is coming in real low. And what we want to do about that is we want to go to our redrum, and we want to actually turn that up. So that way on our mixer, we can see how the levels are looking. So if we don't want this snare to be louder than this snare, well, our knob should match that also. And our snare should be just below our kick. So the knobs should really line up exactly how it sounds. You shouldn't have something way up here, but it doesn't sound like it's hitting at unity gain, but it's on unity gain, it sounds lower. So then therefore you need to go back into your instrument, whatever instrument it is, and you need to tighten that up. You might need to turn it up louder, you might need to turn it down lower, whatever you need to do. But you definitely, what you don't want to do is have your knobs just all over the place. You should be able to see this knob is high, this knob is low, and it makes sense. It follows with our meters. So you can see where this is hitting, it's stopping right around here. This one's stopping right around here. This one's a little lower. And it makes sense. Well, for our hats, same thing. We want to turn that on. We don't need any of these frequencies. So since we don't need any of those frequencies, we could just turn them down. Now, I guess Reason's EQ, once it notices that you're cutting out all of these frequencies, just because of the way that the EQ works, the way that they created the EQ, whenever you take out that much, it's gonna boost that up. So it's automatically kind of boosting up your highs a little bit. But if you don't need the highs boosted, then you can just drop this one down until it's back at equal. So now there's no boost going on that hi-hat. It's just regular. If we want, we can put that back where it was. And you want to use undo and redo, because undo and redo, Control Z or Control Y or Window Z and Window Y, that really is going to get you, that's the best thing to help you figure out, okay, which one sounds better, to do the comparison. Which one of these sounds better? Does it sound better when I turn that off, or does it sound better when I turn it on? Which one sounds better? And based on that, not based on what you see, but based on what you hear, that is how you determine, okay, do I want to leave that or do I want to keep it? So we want to leave it, so we're going to leave it. And that's all we're really going to do for our hi-hats. That's all we're really going to do. As you notice, we haven't really touched anything in the compressor area. We don't need any compression yet. There's no point for any of that at this moment. Now we're going to just keep working on our drums. I got a little, see, look, I shouldn't have to turn this all the way up like that. So that means we need to go, and here's a shortcut that you can use. Show rack device. It's right there. We need to do something with that. It's not coming in loud enough on the mix. So we need to go do something about that. Now I actually don't. Nah, we'll just keep going. So we got that in there, right? Now effects I usually leave at the end, even though I put it into a redrum, it's technically gonna count as a sound. So this is how I do my kicks, my drums over here, my sounds over here, and effects usually lies somewhere in the middle. And so we're not gonna touch our effects yet. So far we're still working on our drums. So let's turn up some of those hi-hats, some of those open hats. Same thing, not getting enough. Let's keep looking at our level. We're still coming in. Cool. Gotta turn that splash up a little more. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come back to this snare because I hear it doing a little bit too much. When our roll comes in, we're gonna throw a compressor on for there. So our compressor, our ratio, this is how much is being taken out of the volume, and this is at what threshold, at what volume is it going to start reacting. So we're not going to mess with our release. It's okay for now. Our attack is okay for now. We just want a standard compressor on there. We're just going to throw a compressor on there and just keep it moving. Okay, so that's pretty much all of our drums. If you ever have a sound that you just want to just nudge a little bit, you hold down shift and that will help you to drag it up just a little bit, you know, just to get just a little more volume. Okay, so now that we've done our drums, the next thing we want to do is our 808s. So right here is our 808, and try to keep things organized so that you know. So I know that this is our bell, this is another bell, I know that this is our synth lead, this is a pluck, right, and this is our main keys. Those are our main keys. So next thing we want to do is work on our 808. Now our 808 already has oh, I thought it did. Well, it doesn't. So good. Our 808 is also going to receive some compression, not a lot, just a little. If you look in the analyzer, you can see all what's happening with the 808. This is how much frequency, this is where that 808 lives. But you can't really hear any of this down here in this low area. So again, because you can't hear it down there in that low area, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to turn on our high pass filter. Now we definitely don't want that much high pass filter. That's going to cut out all of our sound. we're just gonna cut it down to right here at 40 hertz. 39.8, that's cool. Hold your shift and get as close as possible. 39.8 is as close as we're gonna get. So we definitely want that. Also, this is before we heard any sound. I know I don't want any highs. We're just gonna knock all those out. We're gonna knock them out till about 200. Let's try that, and then we'll give it a listen. So we're gonna start increasing our sound now. Let's give it a listen. We also want to we just make sure that we cut. So we cut the low, very lows, and we cut the very highs. Now that we did some cuts, now we're gonna go and I'm gonna use our bass knob right here. First thing I have to do is put on the LF bell, and that's gonna allow me to treat this as a bell, and not just the standard way that it increases the low frequency, but I can treat it like a bell, and that way it's more of a parametric equalizer. It has different parameters that you can access, So we're just gonna come up a little bit below. So we say 808s live around these frequencies around the 60 hertz. So we got to add a little bit there, not very much, just a little bit. Done. All right, so we're gonna start adding in our sounds. Now we want to go. You can start doing them as you like. The best thing to do is to start doing it from the main sounds and then add in your extra sounds. But what you want to do is, we already know we're going to cut some things out. We're going to use a compressor on these main keys, but we know that we're going to cut some stuff out. We know for sure we're going to cut out these lows, because this sound right here, it's not going to utilize any of those lows. So we're going to cut out a lot of those lows. Let's solo it for now so we can just hear what it sounds like. How'd I forget? Now, the only reason why I'm not really affecting a lot of the pan is because of the way that I'm recording the video. You're not really going to hear any of the pan. But when I bounce the track and I put the track at the end of the video, you'll be able to hear how everything sounds, and then you can hear the different panning. But one thing that we would do typically, if you listen to most modern music, the hats are panned to one side or the other, or they do some automation where they're going left and right like this. It just depends on whose style you're listening to. I typically like to take my hi-hats a little bit to the right, so I'll do something like that for the hi-hats. For the chant, we'll take those to the left just to open up some space. Open hats are also, I'm getting a phone call. I'll take that later. Open hats are also a type of, that kind of percussion, so I'll also send those to the right, a little more to the right though. Our splash will stay in the middle so we can kind of hear it coming in both ears. For our second snare, we're going to move that just a little bit. We're going to move that so that it's off a little, and you're getting more in the left than the right. Regular snare, our first snare, initial snare, we're going to leave regular. Kick, of course, we're going to leave regular. We don't even need this width. We can take that off. We can take that off. And our effects, we're going to do a little something later. Depends on how we do these. So I already have these panned a little bit. I have a hard pan to the left for our synth lead. I'll probably take off some of that. I have a hard pan to the right for this bill, and I have a soft pan to the right for the other bill. So that means it's gonna give it a more stereo feel. So I like how we have that set up. So we're gonna leave those panned how they are. We have our pluck kind of like that too. So if you kind of take a look, things are, nothing is only to one side, so things are kind of spread out. So we got a bell to the right, we have our synth lead to the left, our pluck to the left. We have slightly to the left, not really. We're gonna put our synth lead a little further down. Already kind of had a feel for how I wanted to beat the sound, so now we're just getting things to fit how they should fit. That's what mixing is about, fitting things so that everything sounds good and you're not adding too much. So you figure it out. All right, so let's hit our pluck. Guess what? Here's our pluck sound. Guess what the first thing we're gonna do? Yep. We are going to turn on that high pass filter because it has low frequencies that we are not currently using. So we can just take them all out. That's too much. Yeah, see, we lost that note. I like that. And since it's living around here, we'll boost. But as you see, it's not really a high. It's not really a high sound. It's not really getting any of these frequencies. So we don't need them. So we can take off just a little bit of them. That's where our pluck lives. It lives in this range. So we need to adjust the sound so that it's hitting that lane, that world. Turn this on. And of course we can hear it without it, hear it with it. So a lot of these things is about the muddiness of the song, and without these things you'll hear that it's totally different. Without the low pass and high pass filters taken out, you'll hear it just something about the way that it hits in your car stereo, the way it hits in a loud studio, the way it's gonna sound on your monitors, the way it'll sound on your headphones. It just will sound different if you have all those super low frequencies bouncing off of each other, all those super high frequencies. You just start to get a different sound that you really don't want. Now our synth lead is actually it actually has a little bit of everything, but we want it to live in the highs so it can kind of cut through the mix and give us that melody. And because we have our main stab living in this mid section, we're gonna cut some of it out so that it makes room for our main stab. So our synth lead, our main stab and our pluck. So our synth lead is not going to be fighting against those. It's in its own place to the left, and it doesn't have to fight the main stab. And speaking of which, we're going to actually jump it just a little, just a touch to the right. Okay, same thing with our bells. Let's just go ahead and chop all this. And that's pretty much it. So that's my process of how I mix my beat. So now that we mix the beat and we have a lot of headroom, because we're just stopping right here, we're just right here at 12. See, this is unity gain up here at 0. We've given ourselves a lot of headroom, so we can increase these volumes if we want, or we can just continue to add when we go into our normalizing fade and we start to add in our compressor and everything. That's how we can get our volume. That's how we can get things to start to sound, to get that maximum volume feel. But because our mix is so clean and solid, we have things panned, we have things leveled off, we have a leveling, because everything is even and it's where it should be, when it goes time for us to start increasing the volume, we won't start getting that noise, we won't start peaking, we won't have all of the issues that sometimes come with bad mixes. As you can see, we didn't do a whole lot to our 808. We didn't do a whole lot to our kick or our snare. We just leveled things. We just put things where they should be as far as leveling is concerned. And when you start to add in your plugins for your mastering, and you start to do what you need to do for as far as compressing and limiting and all of those things should come into play during the mastering phase. So you got your mix, which is leveling, putting things panned and getting rid of frequencies that are not being used, boosting some frequencies so that we can get more volume. Once we start doing those things, once that's done, everything else as far as compression and limiting, that should come in the mastering stage. So compression typically should be used when you want to keep things at a certain dynamic, like we did with our snare roll. We didn't want it getting so loud at that part. We wanted it to stay with the other parts of the snare. We didn't want it to keep clashing and sounding louder than it should, so we added some compression. We want some compression on our 808 so that it doesn't come through the mix too much, So it's not a whole lot that we did. We didn't really go crazy. We just leveled things off and get things to sound how they should. All right. So that is my video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that this helps you get some understanding as far as mixing in Propellerhead Reason version 10. Specifically, you couldn't really do most of this mixing as far as actually getting a visual. You couldn't really see it in the other versions, but in this version, I think that they have definitely done much better with adding in the mixing elements and things of that nature. So very happy, very pleased with the product, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Please like this video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel for more Reason Propellerhead 10 tips and tricks. Get you guys moving around your flow a lot better. Hopefully organizing your files and your tracks a lot better. And yeah, I'm glad. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you again until next time. Peace.